All right, welcome back. And what we're doing here is that we are catching back up on Superman, and specifically this two-part Superman Red saga here. Now, what this storyline is going to do is that it's going to bring us right up to the doorstep here of Superman going head-to-head with Darkseid's Legion from the Absolute Universe. Now, the last time that we covered Superman here on the channel, he had just gone into a rage mode here due to the red kryptonite that is currently in his system. Now, just to refresh your memory here, back in issues number 1 through 4 here at the start of the series, Dr. Farm and Graft had slipped the red kryptonite here into Supes as a part of this larger plot to mess with his biology. Now, it was initially meant here to destabilize him, but instead it caused unpredictable emotional and physical changes, making him basically kind of rage out like the Hulk would. Now, currently, he's going through another one of those episodes right now because at this time, it's because Mercy has somehow learned how to manipulate Superman into this rage mode. And as a result, he ends up freeing Lex Luthor here from prison. And then what Lex does here is that he goes over to Farm and Graft, who were also in that prison as well, and supposedly strikes a deal here with them, and they agree here to remove the red K from Superman if Lex promises them a fight in return. And now, with Superman going off the rails here, what that does is that it brings in Marilyn Moonlight. Now, Marilyn Moonlight was also introduced here back into the beginning of the series, and she describes herself here as the one tasked with saving Metropolis. Now, Marilyn is essentially spiritually tied here to the city, so whenever there's chaos or danger, she's basically spiritually summoned into action here. It's not something that she can physically control. So now, when we pick back up on things, we see Marilyn telling Superman to stay down and how she must protect Metropolis. And right now, Superman is in her crosshairs. But what Superman's trying to tell her to do is listen, Marilyn, stop, do not fight me. But she's like, I'm sorry, but I know a wild animal when I see one. So once again, Superman just tells he's like, drop your guns and just listen to me for a second here. It's the red kryptonite that is in my system. I can feel myself regaining some control. So instead of shooting me, what I want you to do here is that I want you to follow me. But when he goes over here, what he was going to is a Farm and Graft's cell. So when he gets there, he's like, oh crap, they are gone. And that essentially is starting to spike him all over again, especially when he realizes that so is Lex Luthor. So Marilyn is continuing to go on here I must protect Metropolis. You are the danger of Metropolis. But Superman is think for a second here. I think Luthor is manipulating you. It can't be a coincidence that you were drawn to Strikers now. I suspect that he controls where you go. I can't prove it, but you have to trust me. And if you really want to stop me, we need to find Lex Luthor. So here we go back over here to Supercore. And of course, Mercy's starting to realize some things here with the red K in Superman's systems. He's like, okay, well, his red K levels were spiking, but then now they're going back down again. But then in that moment there, she realizes that there's someone in the room with her. And when she turns around, she sees that it's Lex Luthor. Now, Lex and Mercy here, they have an intimate relationship. That, of course, was before Mercy, had Lex thrown into prison. That's a whole separate story for a different time. That's something that we also did talk about here in earlier one of our videos. But he says to her, he's like, I had to see you. And immediately she's like, so that you can kill me, Lex? Well, he's like, no, Mercy, of course not. I know why you did what you did. You just wanted things back to the way that they were. But that is never going to happen. But he does tell her, he's like, I have all my memories, though. Because ever since the House of Brainiac here, Lex Luthor has lost his memories. Up until about a few issues ago here, he had lost basically everything from his criminal history. He had forgotten all of that. His megalomaniacal personality, he had lost all of that. But that thing is back now. But there's one reason why he did come back here to see Mercy. And he's like, I came to give you a choice. You can have Supercore. It's yours. Or you can come with me. So back with Supes here and Marilyn, they're still in pursuit right now, trying to get back to Lex Luthor. Of course, Marilyn is continuing to threaten that she will shoot Superman. And Superman's like, yo, I'm keeping my rage in check, chill out. And if I do get angry, I'll save that rage here for Luthor. But additionally here, what Supes wants to know, he's like, if Farm and Graft did this, I need to know why. Why would Lex Luthor free them? But additionally here, it seems that they've had some prior conversation because Marilyn says this over to Superman as well. She's like, I've been watching over Metropolis for years. Why would Lex Luthor create a curse that binds me to the city, and how? So then Soup says, he's like, I don't think it was a curse, but science that Luthor created. We'll ask him in person once we find him. But first, I hear Graft and Farb, and it's not really hard to miss them because when they look up, they see this big machine, which, by the way, looks like something that Lex Luthor would have created. And what they're looking for right here, Farb and Graft, is that they're screaming out, they're like, Lex Luthor, you promised us a fight here to the death. You owe us revenge. Come out now and live up to your end of the bargain. The epic battle of Farb and Graft is at hand. But then in that moment here, Soups is like, yo, hold on for a second. I've seen this before. It's made from the same nanotech that was used to create the S on the top of Supercore. So when Marilyn asks the question, she's like, how do we stop it? He responds back and he's like, we fight our way inside that thing and then we find out. But then in that moment here, there's a voice that comes in, and it's the voice here of Lex Luthor. As he's communicating with him, he's like, Superman, I know that you can hear me. And he says to Soups, he's like, Farmer Graft and I made a deal. If they agreed to cure you, I would free them. Of course, they lied. They had no cure. But I did. I always did. And I sent it to you. And he continues on. He's like, you've proven to me that you're smarter than you act, Superman. Let's not pretend that you haven't figured it out. Which is when Soups is like, you planned this. All of this was a ruse for your escape. To which he says, he's like, yeah, correct. I triggered your Red K. I sent Marilyn after you. I freed Farmer and Graft as a distraction. So as Soups is just getting upset, he says, where are you going? Is a question that he asks Lex. Lex just ignores that question and it's like, if you want to beat this nanobot armor, you will need to use something made from the same material. And once again, as Soups is starting to spike that Red K again, or that Red K is starting to spike in Superman, you get the point. He says, just listen. When I started this plan, it was to get you to trust me. That was my original plan. It was. And as Superman is going over, by the way, to Supercore to grab the big S off of that building, he continues to say, he's like, but as we worked together, I saw the lie that I had carefully crafted became the truth. We were a good team. Metropolis and the world were better with us working side by side, but I can't escape who I was. I need to find out who I am now. And that means leaving Metropolis. But before I left, I had to be sure to say goodbye. And I gotta say, although what Lex did is not good, it's different, right? Like there's growth here. And for that, I can kind of appreciate this moment just a little bit. Now, Superman, he throws that Supercore side gear directly into the machine, and nanotech machine gear that Farmer and Graft were leading. And Superman here, realizing that the one thing that he was trying to avoid is the thing that will actually cure him, he says this to Marilyn. He says, shoot me now. And as she does that, Superman says, he's like, this is what Lex wanted. He sent you after me. Your moonlight powers, they cure me. But also at the same time, it has an effect on Moonlight as well, because she says, and me, Metropolis was saved. The sun is up, but I'm still here. I am free. But with this, Superman still has something on his chest, right? Because he flies up and he's like, where is he? Where is Lex Luthor? But all he sees right here is Mercy. And Mercy says, she's like, I thought Lex cured you from your rage from the Red K. To which he responds back, he's like, this anger is all me. Where did he go, Mercy? To which she says, she's like, I don't know. He asked me to go with him, but where he goes now, I can't follow. I have no idea where Lex Luthor is. To which Superman's like, if you're lying, but then she just quickly cuts him off and it's like, she's like, your superhero and tells you I'm not, right? And she continues on, she's like, go home, Superman. Just know this. You might be upset with me today, but you need me. And because of what Mr. Luthor taught me, I will always be here to help you. So in the aftermath of this here, Superman, or I should say Clark Kent, goes over to see Lois Lane. Now remember, Lois just recently lost her powers here as Superwoman. And also, if you have been following this series as well, we also saw in the very beginning of this issue that Jimmy Olsen is now back at the Daily Planet as well. So it's good to see that he is recovered. But getting back to Lois here, although she keeps on saying that she's okay with not being Superwoman anymore, and in truth she is, but there's still some loss that she's experiencing from that. Because when Clark says to her, "Rough night at the office," she responds back and says, "Nothing compared to yours. I heard what happened at Strikers." And then she says, "Every part of my body wanted to fly up there and help you. But," and then Clark is like, "Honey, come on." As he stretches his hands out, she puts her hands in his, and then he flies her up on this, like, what is a really kind of like a beautiful moment. As he tells her, he's like, "About Superwoman, your powers." And then she says, she's like, "I'm not going to say I didn't love it, that I won't miss it, but I'm okay not being Superwoman anymore. I've been Lois Lane my whole life, and trust me when I say I like it." But then she really expresses her true concerns, which is this. She's like, "But honey, are you okay with me not being Superwoman? I was worried I let you down." To which he then says, he's like, "I've loved you since the day I met you, and you didn't have powers that day. But if you ever want to fly again, I know a guy." But then the conversation shifts because they're remembering here that there are some other issues that they still got to worry about because LexCorp is back. And of course here, Mercy still has all the Supercore resources and technology as well. And in all of this, Superman still can't hear where Lex has gone. But this is what happens now, is that we shift over here to the future, which really serves here as an epilogue to the fight between Superman and Darkseid's Legion, where once again we see Cosmic Boy, Lightning Lad, and Saturn Girl just dragging Doomsday around, or my bad, Time Trapper around like a ragdoll. Now Time Trapper's asking the question, he's like, "Yo, where are you taking me?" To which Saturn Girl lets it know. He's like, "We need you to meet our other captive." Of course, Lightning Lad is asking the question, he's like, "Yo, why are we keeping this time traveling joke alive?" Which is when we hear her say, "Booster Gold is no joke. He's the most important person in time and space. Our boy passed through the rift. It filled him with pure Omega energy, the stuff of dark creation, the same energy our master used to create our worlds." This is huge. He's the key to everything. But at the same time, this just made me laugh because Time Trapper's like, "Your master will not be happy that you just revealed that information." Now, when Cosmo Boy responds back to him, he's like, "We're not afraid of you, Time Trapper. My magnetic powers use your unbreakable chains against you, and you can't escape." Which is when Time Trapper is like, "Yo, you may know me as the Time Trapper, but I am still Doomsday." Of course, I believe he said that with a little bit more bass in his voice than I just did. Y'all just leave me alone, okay? And then he breaks out of those chains. And then he says, he's like, "You might have stolen the future, but just as I am immortal, so is this fight. Must find the world forger." And before they could stop him, he goes. And when Cosmic Boy asks a question, he's like, "Shoot, do we go after him?" Saturn Girl says, "No, let him run. We know where he will end up eventually." And when Lightning Lad says, "We finally doing it?" Saturn Girl says, "It's time. It's time we met Superman." So I don't know about you, I am super excited about this. I know that, yes, it does seem like it's a little bit early that we are getting this a little bit of a crossover here, but it's Superman and it's Darkseid and it all makes sense. Darkseid's Legion. So I'm looking forward to it. What are your thoughts so far here with our lead up to it? What are your thoughts? What are your theories? We'd love for you to leave it down below in the comments. Also, leave a like on this video here for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. Also, check out our Keepin' It comic website here. The link for that is going to be down below in the description, which you can find through our link tree. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, thank you so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic. Bye.